If you live with an older cat, then you might be wondering how to give them the best care. All the best people do. I'm Lucy Hoyle, I'm a cat behaviourist and author of the book Your Cat Wishes You Would Read. I also have two older cats myself. Fig is 15 and Sparks is 40. So I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about caring for an older cat. The good thing is, with better healthcare and better nutrition, our cats are living longer than ever, which is obviously good news for us. And I think the average is around 12 to 15 years of age. But obviously, you probably know that many cats live much longer and sometimes well into their 20s. But depending on where you look, then they can be classed as senior or elderly from between like 7 to 10 years. So for those cats that are going to live longer, then they spend over half their lives or a significant chunk of their life as an elderly cat. And an elderly cat has very different needs to younger cats, and you might notice changes in their behaviour as they go forward. So we need to make changes to their environment and the way that we care for them as they get older. So before we think about the behavioural and environmental changes that we need to put in, firstly, it's important to make sure your cat is physically healthy. So I would start by making sure they're on an age-appropriate diet. So there are diets out there that are specifically formulated for older cats, and they will make sure that all your cat's nutritional needs are met and will help support them in their older age. So I'm not going to advise you what specifically to feed, but generally I would recommend a scientifically proven one and one that's vet recommended, because all the research is done and we can rely on that to make sure our cats are happy, nutritionally happy. Next is, I would really make sure you're proactive with preventative healthcare. So rather than waiting for your cat to get poorly and then take him to the vet, they need regular checkups, and as well as physical exam, I would also make sure they have blood tests as well. That's just so that they can pick up on anything that's going to be happening with your cat super early. So cats are very prone to kidney disease, and my cat Fig has diabetes. So it's really good to pick up on those as early as possible to make sure we can put treatment in place and stop it from getting too bad and too late. So with Fig's diabetes, the only change I noticed in his behaviour was that he was drinking more. So that was enough of a flag for me to take him to the vet. But you may not even see those sort of signs, and if you do, they're easy to miss or just to like put it down to normal behaviour. So be really proactive with that. And I would also just flag here that cats are really good at hiding pain. Like, they're very stoic. They don't give anything away. So if they're feeling poorly or uncomfortable, or if there's something wrong, you might not know until much further down the line, until it's really serious. So it's up to us to be really proactive and make sure that we're covering all bases. So dental issues as well, I would also just flag those, because it's really common for cats, probably of any age to be fair, but particularly older cats, to have problems with their teeth. So we want to make sure our vet's keeping up with giving them physical exam and testing their bloods too. Arthritis is something that's really common in older cats too, and the research is showing that most cats over the age of 10 have some form or some degree of arthritis. So whenever I see a cat with a behaviour problem who's over 10, I just presume they have it, even if it's not been officially diagnosed. When I give my treatment and it involves environmental changes, I always keep in mind that this is an older cat and they need some additional support. And this can mean that they have difficulty grooming themselves. So we all know the little shapes our cats pull when they're younger, and they look like they're doing little cat yoga, so they can wash their back legs and wash their whole body all over. But obviously, as they get older, if they do get a bit more arthritic, then it's much more difficult to do that. It's much more difficult to keep up with it, especially if they're a long hair cat. So for Sparks, we haven't had to do any additional grooming. Hey. But for Figgy, I have noticed over time he has become more knotty, and it is like he's not able to keep on top of his fur as easily as he used to, because he's got such long hair. Hey, Fee. So that's something that we really need to keep up with. And I would try to sort of foresee this happening as much as you can. So if you know that your cat doesn't like being groomed, then it's really important to try to get them used to it while you don't need to do it. Because once they become knotted or a bit matted, it will be much, much more difficult for you to properly groom them, because as well as trying to get them used to the brush, which they don't like, it will be more painful because now you're having to get the mats out, and you'll be like, come on, we have to do it because we've got to get the mats out. Whereas if you're more proactive and you do it beforehand, you can just focus on keeping their coats nice and smooth and mat free. That way they'll enjoy it a lot more, and you don't have, like, it's not so urgent. You can just give them a quick brush every day. I would also add in here that we need to be careful about how we handle them. So I wouldn't ordinarily recommend picking a cat up if they don't like it anyway, but I know some people do, and some cats like the snuggles and some people like the snuggles. And when they're a bit younger, that's easier for them to sort of cope with, even if they don't like it. Like they can wriggle themselves out and show you that actually they want to get down. But for an older cat, then it doesn't really, like it's not really appropriate and they can't struggle down as easily. And if they jump down from your arms, that's going to put massive pressure on their joints and their little bones. So we need to be much more careful with how we're handling them, and things like training them to walk into the carrier rather than having to pick them up and put them in. That will be really helpful. You will notice changes in your cat's behaviour as they get older. And sometimes it's easy to think that it's just part of the aging process, like we don't need to worry about it. But with a few small changes to your home, then you can begin to see those behaviours come back. So, for example, you might notice that your cat is less active and doesn't go outside as often. They like to stay home. But if you think about how they get outside, are they having to squeeze themselves through a little cat flap? Like, is there a step going through? Is it comfortable enough for them to do that? Because you might find that, yes, they're spending less time outside, but if you were to open the back door, or when it's summer and you've got the door open, you notice they go out a lot more, then it could be more to do with that, that they do want to go out there, but it's just not comfortable for them to do that anymore. Like they struggle to get in or they struggle to get out. And likewise, like what's happening outside? Are there any stresses out there? Because if you had a cat that used to be able to handle himself in that he would fight with other cats or chase other cats away, now he's a bit older, you might find that actually he feels quite vulnerable out there because he can no longer handle himself, or the other cats out there are fitter, they're more of a threat, and he's more likely, like it's more risky, he's more likely to get himself hurt. So there could be more reasons as to why your cat chooses not to go out, other than him just being a bit old and wanting to stay at home. That being said, I do feel that older cats will sleep more than younger cats. So it's really important to make sure that they have comfortable places to sleep. And this is something that might change over time. So, for example, Figgy, he used to love like a windowsill or the desk, like a flat desk or like a carrier bag. If you put a carrier bag on the floor, he'd go and like squiggle himself on it and lay. He'd like flat, smooth surfaces. But now, as he's got older, I've noticed he does prefer like a blanket or a soft, snuggly bed that he's usually perched in here when he never would have been before. So if he was my only cat, I might not bother with those fluffy beds. I might think he doesn't like the fluffy beds because for 10 years he liked to sleep on the desk or on the windowsill. So we need to make sure that we're foreseeing these things happening, because if he has got any form of arthritis or he's just like a bit creaky and needs more comfortable places to sleep, then I need to make sure I'm providing those. So he does have a blanket now. He does have plenty of places to sleep that are comfortable. And I've also noticed as well, he's become more sociable with me. So I don't know whether some cats might go less sociable and that they might sort of keep themselves a bit more, but like Fig, they might become more sociable. So whereas before he used to sort of sit next to me in an evening, now he sits firmly on my lap. I don't know whether that's because my lap is more comfortable, or maybe he just likes the attention, but it is something that's definitely come with age. So be aware of how your cat's behavior is changing and understand your cat's specific needs. It won't be the same for every cat. So learn about what they were like before and cater for those changes. When they're telling you they need something new, then make sure you're on hand to put that in place. And for Sparks, I've noticed that he loves to be warm. So it might not be something that's come with age, to be fair, but he definitely needs easy, accessible, warm places. So because he's a Cornish Rex, he doesn't have much fur. So if you have a breed of cat that's the same, like a Sphinx or another Rex breed, then you probably know already, but just make sure that you have lots of warm places for them to sleep, because that will help to ease those joints and help keep them comfortable. So there are lots of soft, comfortable beds, but you could also use a pet safe heater or a hot water bottle, but it's not too hot, so they don't like burn themselves, but like something that can just give that additional bit of warmth. I would say this is especially important through the night, so that you don't end up with them like fine during the day, but at night they can't get warm, they can't get comfortable, and this is when you might see that they vocalize more and start waking you up, and it can be a real issue. Another really important area that is a big one for me is making sure that you've provided easily accessible litter trays. So just because they used them before when they were younger doesn't necessarily mean it will be easy for them to use when they're older, especially if, like I say, your cat goes outside to wee. This might become quite difficult, and you might find that even if you didn't have a tray before, you might need one now. And some litter trays are quite difficult for cats to use. So if you have like a high-sided one with a top opening, so the cats have to jump up and over, that's going to be much more difficult as they get older. And even some of the hooded trays or the open trays have high sides where your cat has to step in. If they're feeling really poorly, then that can be difficult for them to do as well. So in these cases, you might find that they tend to go on like more comfortable places, like they might go on the bed or they might go like on the carpet, and so it's just less challenging for them to do. So we really want to make litter trays that are easy for them to use and like the obvious choice. So if your litter trays are down in your utility room and your cat spends most of their time up on your bed, then it's a big ask for them to go all the way down the house to then use the tray down there. So put one nearby, put one near the place where you know they like to hang out, so that it's easy for them to do it. And yeah, we're just supporting them in their older years. Just be careful though, because some cats don't cope very well with change, particularly when they're older. So don't go and sack off all the litter trays they've got already and replace them with brand new ones, because actually that might be more stressful than them having little bit of a difficult tray to use anyway. I would suggest bringing in the new one first, putting in the same litter so that they, like, that's another choice that they can use. And then if they're consistently using the new one, you know that that's what they choose, so you know you can get rid of the other one, and B, then you know you are free to get rid of the old one without them thinking like, oh, my tray, what should I do? So we're trying to make it as stress-free as possible while supporting their physical needs. Next, I would give some thought to the actual setup of your territory and the spaces that your cat can access, because you might find as they get older that they don't go in the places that you know they used to love, like on the top of the wardrobe or on top of the fridge, or like those higher places that they used to hang out and love, they're now not going anymore. So this could be because it's too challenging for them to get there. And you might notice that for a while they still do go up there, but you can notice more like hesitation in the way they jump. So, hello. So Fig used to do this where we had a stair gate in our old house when we had the dog, and like the idea was the dog couldn't go through and the cats could jump over it, which they could. But I was watching Fig jump and he was like spending like a full minute weighing up the jump and like hesitating and sort of wobbling, ready to be like, okay, now. And then he would do it and he would get over it. So I've worked with people in the past who have said like, oh yeah, they can get over it. I've seen them. And it's just like a tick box. Yes, they can do it, or no, they can't. Whereas actually, I could see that it was really hard for Fig to do that, and it's not something that I would encourage him to do every single day if he wanted to go upstairs and sleep on the bed. So we cut a hole, like one of the slats out of the stair gate, and he could slip through the gap, and the dog couldn't. So that worked out fine. But I would look at your home from your cat's point of view as an elderly cat and try to make it as easy as possible. Even if you know they can make the jump, how can you help them out? Because even if they try, they're still going to be putting pressure on their joints when they jump down or up to a high place. So if they do love the wardrobe, is there like an intermediate little step, maybe 2 or 3 steps you can put in to help them up? Ramps can be good as well. Same for outside, like if they like going over the fences, you might find they can't actually make that jump anymore, or not easily. So we can install ramps to help them up, or a series of steps. So I would definitely recommend installing like shelving if you need to, or like a giant cat tree with lots of different layers, levels. Then they're usually good to help cats get from one place to another, because a lot of cat trees do have multiple platforms that don't involve such a high jump. So they're sort of ready made for older cats. So that can really help. And while we're on the subject of cat trees, the places where cats scratch, you might find change as they get older too. So when they're young, when they're athletic, they might like stretch up high and really work their muscles to pull down on the cat tree and stretch their limbs out and do all that stuff. Whereas when they get older, you might find that actually they just want something soft and comfortable to scratch on. So lots of cats will swap from scratching on a vertical surface like a cat tree onto a carpet, because they don't have to do much to actually maintain their nails. They can just like pull up at the carpet from where they're sitting. So I would recommend switching or adding in some cardboard scratchers, because like I'm sure you've seen, they're like corrugated cardboard like pads. Make sure it's big enough for your cat to sit on so it stays steady, and then they can strop at the cardboard below them, so that's a lot easier on their joints. And I would just flag here, have you ever seen, like if they don't maintain their claws and if you don't keep on top of it, sorry Fig, I'm gonna have to let you go. Oh, sorry. Their claw can come out of their paw and round and back into the pad, and it can embed in there. And obviously, that's going to be super painful, very uncomfortable, and very difficult to like. You'll have to see the vet to get that sorted, and you might not notice until like it's properly in there, which is horrible. So yeah, we want to make sure that they have comfortable places to scratch. So caring for elderly cats is twofold. Firstly, we want to make sure we're being really proactive with their healthcare and diet and handling. And secondly, is seeing the environment from their point of view identifying their specific needs, because it won't be the same for all cats, and meeting those needs for them, and just helping them maintain a really good quality of life through their older years. Adorable. Don't forget to watch this video, which will tell you how to get your cat into the carrier in a pinch, which is super useful for elderly cats. And me, Fig and Sparks will see you next time. Take care. Bye. You're so cute. You're so cute. Love you. Sparkles. Love you too. Oh, you cutie, cutie, cutie.